Part 3 of the inviting formula is invite. The definition of invite is to ask for the presence or participation of. The purpose of the invite step is to ask your prospect to review information that can help them achieve what they've stated they need, want, or don't want. Once you've greeted your prospect and qualified them to find out if they do in fact have a need or want for what your business offers, the next step is to start educating them how your business can deliver that. As I mentioned in the general tips, the first step is to have your prospect view information about the network marketing industry based on the relevant information gained in the qualify step of the inviting formula. When you've done the first 2 steps of the inviting formula correctly, the invite is a piece of cake. The critical step in inviting is to use the relevant information gained in qualify. Here's an example. John, you know how you said that you want something where you could buy a sailboat and cruise the Caribbean islands? John says, yeah. I've seen a DVD that I think you'll benefit from seeing. You may be closer to that boat than you think. Do you have a DVD player? John replies, yes. If he doesn't, then use some other method. And then I would say, as soon as we get off the phone, I'm going to send it to you. What address do you want me to use? A slight variation of that would be, I've seen something that you probably should look at. It could possibly get you that boat. Then you can conclude with whatever is your preferred way to have them look at Brilliant Compensation. Could be a DVD as I've just used, or it could be an online presentation, a video, or audio CD-ROM version. If you want to meet with them for a one-on-one meeting, a business meeting such as in a hotel meeting room or a conference call, I suggest you still have them view Brilliant Compensation first. An example of inviting someone to a one-on-one is, I've seen something that I think you will benefit from seeing. Can we get together tomorrow for breakfast? He says yes. Good. I want to have you view something prior to that meeting. Do you have access to the internet? An example of inviting someone to a business meeting would be, I've seen something that I think you will benefit from seeing. Actually, I'd like you to meet a couple of partners I'm working with on this project. Can you meet me about 6:30 on Thursday? Do you know where the Hyatt Regency Hotel is? Let's suppose that John replies he does know where this hotel is. In preparation to that meeting, I want you to see a general overview. What's your email address and I'll send you an online movie. The next part of the inviting formula is to handle any questions and objections that come up. But I always go directly to close to action step from the invite. And if they have questions or objections, I back up a step and address them. Meaning, I don't wait around to see if they have any questions or objections, nor do I ask them if they have any. So my invite would go as I've stated earlier, and then I go straight to close to action. Here's an example. John, you know how you said you want something where you could get a sailboat and cruise the Caribbean islands? Yeah. I've seen something I think you will benefit from seeing. Do you have internet access? Yeah. Are you able to get on the internet right now? Yeah, my computer's right in front of me. Good. Go to this address and then give them the address of the movie. Then you would close them to action and schedule the follow-up call. I'll get more into the close to action and the follow-up step after questions and objections, but I wanted to make this point about not waiting or hesitating after the invite. Go straight to close to action unless they stop you with questions and or objections. Let's do a couple of live calls. On these calls you will hear me invite and then go straight to the close to action step. The invite is just asking for someone to view something, and the close to action is just making a plan to talk again. All right, so let's pick back up with Nadira, the incredibly sweet lady from Algeria. Let me ask you this. What particular reason is it that you would most like to work from home?
It's because of my daughter, and I told you my husband is not here.
Yes.
So, she's at school, and to me it's better if I can manage work and family.
Oh, of course. How old's your daughter?
She's 11.
Oh, 11. No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so what? She's just now going into 6th grade, 7th grade?
Yeah, middle school.
Yes.
She's starting her first year there.
Big step.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I bet you're very proud of her.
Absolutely, and she's a good student too. We're very proud of her.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
You have internet access, obviously, because that's how you filled out the form.
Uh-huh.
I want to go through 2 steps with you.
Uh-huh.
One is that I want you to take a look at an online video clip. Do you have something to write with?
Yes.
Go to www.explorefreedom.com /training Trump. Trump.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
I want you to look at this little short clip.
Okay.
And then you and I will talk again, and then I'll give you specifics about the business that we're doing.
Okay.
And when you go to the that particular page,
Yeah.
it will have my picture there. And on the
Okay.
left side, there's two movies. One is, I think it's called What the Wealthy Buy, and then the other one is called Brilliant Compensation.
Okay.
If you can watch both of those, and then you and I will plan to talk.
Okay.
When do you think you'll get a chance to actually look at them?
Oh, well, maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I can do that, yeah, 'cause
Okay.
yeah, I'm at home tomorrow.
You are at home tomorrow?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes, I can do that. Tomorrow morning, maybe.
Okay. What would be a good time for us to talk after you've had a chance to look at these?
Well, like at 2 o'clock maybe, 2 p.m.?
2 p.m.
Yes, I can watch that in the morning, and then we talk about that.
That works for me.
Okay.
All right. I have penciled that in that I will call you tomorrow at 2.
Okay.
All right. And I look forward...
What's your name again?
My name is Tim, Tim.
Tim.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll see my picture and my name, and all my contact information will be on that Explore Freedom /Trump page.
Okay.
Okay. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was almost verbatim from the scripts I gave you. As I said earlier, the invite is very simple when you've done the greeting and qualifying steps correctly. I do have a couple of live calls where the prospects came up with objections. You'll hear those in the next section on questions and objections. Now we'll pick back up with Vincent, the mechanic from Mechanicsville. In addition to listening to the invite, I'm going to include Vincent's entire call because it's a good study of something I explained earlier. The study is that when you have a prospect who is matching your brief answers, take a little longer with your answers. Listen to the way that his answers are very brief in the beginning, and then after I take a little longer with my replies to him, he opens up and talks a little longer.
Hello?
Hello, is this Vincent?
Speaking.
Hey, this is Tim Sales. You had filled out a questionnaire wanting a home-based business?
Yeah, I wanted to get some information on it.
Have a specific idea of what it is that you're actually looking for, man?
No, not really. I've been out of work for a couple of years, so I'm looking for something.
What kind of work have you done in the past?
I was an automotive technician for 16 years.
And you live in Mechanicsville?
Yep.
You find that coincidental?
No, because there's a Mechanicsville, Virginia, too, so.
And were you from there, too?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, that would be too coincidental.
Yeah, well, I ended up with the name Sales, S-A-L-E-S, and so everybody kind of looks at me like I've got two heads. They're like, you know, it's like a Dr. Payne or something that's a dentist. And
I can imagine.
So when you were a mechanic, did you work for somebody else as a mechanic?
Yeah.
What kind of mechanic were you?
Yeah, I was a Toyota technician.
Toyota technician. So pretty much all parts of the car, or did you specialize in brakes or something?
Everything.
Oh, okay.
From front to back.
All right. I was a tire buster when I was a teenager, and like Firestone, J.C. Penney's, things like that. And then I went through a school on tuning engines, and I knew my way around a car for a while there, but they've changed it quite a bit since.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different ball game. It won't be long before it'll diagnose itself.
Yeah, that's the way that it was getting. I mean, it's now computers, and before we used to fine tune the jets of a carburetor by sound.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. I did that. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like you said, it's come a long way. So
yeah. Sure has. So on the questionnaire that you filled out, you had said that you wanted a better quality of life, and I guess where that comes in is being out of work for a couple of years. Then certainly you're wanting to do something that's going to bring that up, huh?
Well, yeah, it's been a long 2 years, and I'm looking for something that'll keep me busy anyhow until all of this stuff is over with.
Yeah.
So.
Was there a particular reason that you were out for 2 years?
Yeah, I got hurt on the job.
Ah.
Yeah, so they've done major back surgery on me, so I'm not able to do any of that lifting or any of that stuff anymore. So
All right, man. What I'd like to do with you, if we could, Vincent, is you have obviously web access, correct?
Yeah.
I'd like to have you review an online movie. Actually, two of them. One's a little short clip, and the other one is a little bit more detailed explanation, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a look at these two movies, and then you and I will have a more in-depth conversation about what it is that we're specifically doing here in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm down in D.C.,
Okay.
and so let me give you a web address that you can go to.
Okay.
In fact, can you log on right now just to make sure that you do get in? Is that
Uh,
possible, or is it not?
yeah. No, I'm sitting in front of the computer now. So.
All right. Well, pull up a pull up a web browser
Okay.
and type in www.explorefreedom.com
Okay.
/Trump, Trump, as in Donald Trump.
Okay.
All right, and tell me if that page comes up for you.
Okay. I got it. Tim Sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so there's my ugly mug there on the right.
Okay.
On the left-hand side there's one that says Learn How the Wealthy Get That Way.
Right.
And then below that is Watch Brilliant Compensation. So click on that first one, Learn How the Wealthy Get That Way.
Okay.
And what it'll do is it'll check to make sure that you have the software on your computer.
Right.
And does it say anything like you have Flash 5 or something like that?
Yeah, it's up running.
Okay, good. Well, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a pause button
Upper left-hand corner. I don't see it.
of the blackboard or whatever it is that's inside the screen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You can hit the pause button there just for a second.
Okay.
And then once we get off the phone, you can just hit that rewind button that's right to the left of it.
Okay.
And it'll just back you up to the beginning of it, and then you can hear it.
Okay.
You'll be able to watch this now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so why don't we plan to talk maybe about 7 o'clock or so?
Okay.
Does that work
Sounds
for
good.
you?
Yep.
All right. I'll call you back at this number at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so Vincent has been out of work for a couple of years due to a back injury. He needs a teammate to help him, doesn't he? All right, that concludes the invite section. Let's move to handling questions and objections. Part 4 of the inviting formula is handle questions and/or objections. Let's start off with some definitions to make sure we're speaking the same language. The definition to the word handle means to deal with effectively. More specifically, I mean that we don't just have a comeback or something to say to our prospect's question or objection, but we actually get our prospect beyond their objection. Definition of questions is, of course, something asked. Definition of objections is expressed or unexpressed opposition. Opposition means to be resistant or opposed to. Let me say that more slowly. Expressed or unexpressed opposition. What does that mean? Expressed objection would mean the prospect states what they're opposed to. Unexpressed means the prospect is opposed to something but doesn't state it. Well, just how do you handle an objection you don't even know is there? Well, keep listening. I'll cover that a little later. The purpose of handling questions and objections is to get the prospect beyond their questions and/or oppositions, which are apparently stopping them from attaining what they've stated they need, want, or don't want. I want to give you an analogy that I will use through the rest of the questions and objections section. Perhaps this has happened to you, and therefore you will not have to pretend, but just in case it's not happened to you, I'm going to start this analogy with the word pretend. If this has happened to you, then you can start this analogy with remember. Here it is. Pretend that you're driving down the road and suddenly a bug hits your windshield. Because it happened quickly, it startled you. You look at the bug splattered on your windshield, and for a few seconds you're looking at it. Then suddenly you realize that you're so focused on the bug that you stop watching where you were going, even though it's still right in front of you. You were distracted by the bug. So you quickly focus back on the road in front of you and continue where you wanted to go. Now, with that analogy in mind, I'll continue with my explanation of questions and objections. A question or objection is like a bug on the prospect's windshield that's distracting them from getting this thing they want. Sometimes the bug is visible, and they're staring at it, and they point it out to you. Therefore, it can be addressed. Sometimes it's there, and they're staring at it, and they won't tell you what they're looking at, and you have to help them. Ponder this for a minute. During the qualifying step of the inviting formula, your prospect expressed desire for something that your business contains. You then invited her. And listen closely to this. Once invited to actually go after this thing she wants, it is very common for a prospect to shift her focus from the thing she wants onto things that can stop her from getting it. And this is obvious because otherwise she would already have this thing she desires. You may want to pause the tape and ponder that for several minutes because it's the key to effective question and objection handling. Why doesn't your prospect have this thing she wants? There's only one answer. Because she keeps preventing it. How does she do that? She does it by distraction. Simply focusing on something other than the thing she wants. I call this thing a bug. Sometimes they're great big bugs, other times just tiny gnats. It doesn't matter the size. All that matters is that it's big enough to stop her from having this thing she wants. One could perhaps attempt to argue this out, but all arguments fall quickly to this one statement. Who else is to blame? One can try to put the blame on their spouse, or someone else for that matter, but that's lame. A person being controlled by someone else has to agree to be controlled. How about, I tried that and it didn't work? How is that a self-imposed objection? Well, has it worked for anyone else? Yes? So who caused it not to work? How about, I don't have time? Nice little common objection there. Let's examine this little nugget because that bug stops a lot of people. Let's just get this straight if we can. A person wants something. They say they want it. You show them how they can get it. Then they say, I don't have time. Does it seem kind of odd to you? Who decides what they do each year, day, hour, minute, second? The individual does. Oh, sure, they can try to act like someone else owns their time, but that's not true. The only way someone or something owns your time is if you agree to it. I'll give you a quick little story to show you this one at work. In my Washington, D.C. home, I have drinking water delivered in 5-gallon bottles. The delivery guy and I always talk when he's here. He's a real fun person. So one day he asked me what I did. It was in reference to my place being nice. On the day he asked me this, I was trading stocks, and it was quite obvious as it was on my computer screen. Also obvious was my account balance and my earnings. Green numbers meant I made money. Red numbers meant I lost money. I was up about 25 grand on that week's trades. So he's looking at the 25 grand number and he says, "You made that?" I said, "Yeah." He asked, "Over what period of time?" I told him that was this week's profits. I then told him that it's not that difficult, and I pulled out a couple of things and showed him how to do it. Now, I had gone through years of trading and lost well over $1 million to figure out the exact way to make money. So all the hard work had been figured out, much the same way I'm showing you how to invite. All right, so after I tell him very specifically what to do, here's what he said to me. "Yeah, but you got to do that all day." Do you see the bug on his windshield he just decided to focus on? What he makes in a year, I just showed him how to earn in a week. And his immediate response was that I had to watch the stocks all day. Now, can you see that it's his bug? Yes, very obviously so. But can he see that it's his bug? No. That's why you must handle questions and objections. I hear people from the front of the room at events and on conference calls say, "Just send this." This being some kind of presentation out and let those interested contact you back. There's also a bunch of internet systems popping up that claim to do it all for you. That will never work long term. Occasionally you'll get someone that way, but you're missing the majority of people. If it was that easy, your network marketing company wouldn't need you, the professional networker. The company could just buy the addresses of everyone in the country and send that magical tool out and sponsor them. Nope, it doesn't work that way. People have self-imposed bugs that distract them from getting what they want. Otherwise, they would already have it. Your job as a professional networker is to be their teammate and help them get their focus off these bugs that can, have in the past, and will in the future stop them. So that's the first thing you really have to have knowledge of to be a professional networker who can handle questions and objections successfully. This knowledge should also give you enormous compassion and patience with your prospects. The second thing you have to have knowledge of is you mustn't tell the prospect that these objections are self-imposed. Telling them this will rock their boat in a big way. Imagine you're a prospect and you give a salesperson your reason for not buying the product is that you don't have enough money, and he tells you that that's not real. That's just a self-imposed objection. You'd kill him. All right, so don't ever say that to a prospect. And the third thing you have to have knowledge of is that you can't just pretend the objection or bug doesn't exist. It does. So the best thing you can do is let them know that you fully understand their concern. You do this by looking at the bug they're looking at. Oh, yeah, I see it right there. There it is. It's green and slimy and wow, look at all those legs. Now, you're not doing this with a smirk on your face, thinking this is your stupid imagination that I'm having to deal with here. The way you become their teammate and the person that helps them pass their objection is to be their confidant, their comrade, their buddy, and you do that by looking at what they're looking at. A lot of times, simply by fully letting them know that you understand their objection will get them to take their attention off of it. All right, let's move forward. As I said earlier, there are two kinds of questions and or objections. Expressed, which is when your prospect expresses a question or objection. Be very thankful. It's one you don't have to dig up. Unexpressed is when your prospect withholds their question or objection. Your job is to locate and remove the unexpressed questions and objections. The greeting, qualifying, and invitation steps of the inviting formula have been designed around minimizing the questions and objections you receive. However, there will be a few questions or objections that arise. So you need to know the correct method to be your prospect's teammate and help them around their questions and objections. To accomplish this, I created what I call the Questions and Objections Remedy. It's 5 simple steps that ensure you handle their question or objection and not just come back with a response. Here is the Questions and Objections Remedy. Number 1, listen completely through the question objection. Specifically, listen to every word they say without thinking about a response. Do not interrupt your prospect while they're giving you their question or objection. The reason you do this is so you are sure you get the correct objection and to respect the prospect's right to communicate a full thought without you feeling your thought is more important. Something else on listening completely through. Sometimes when you listen all the way through an objection, they will come up with a second, third, and fourth objection. Oh, this is music. Let them sing. These are all objections you don't have to dig up. So learn to pause a good second or two after they stop talking to see if they'll give you another one. Number 2 of the Questions and Objection Remedy is to confirm understanding. Ask questions when necessary. The reason you do this is to confirm that your understanding of the question or objection is actually the question or objection of the prospect. Otherwise, you could end up trying to handle an objection the prospect doesn't have. This could turn out disastrously because you just gave them another bug to look at. Here's an example of the right way to do this. Prospect says, "Is this sales?" Networker says, "I want to make sure I answer the correct question. Could you clarify what you mean by sales?" Prospect says, "Would I have to go out and sell products door to door?" Networker says, "Oh, now I understand. Thanks for clarifying that. Your question is this something that is door-to-door sales? Have you done this type of sales before?" That would further clarify it. Prospect, "Absolutely not." Now that's how you clarify understanding. Now you fully understand what that person means. Number 3 of the Questions and Objection Remedy is to make the question or objection valid with the same or slightly less intensity. But don't agree with the objection. Let me go into this a little bit. Part of number 3 is to make a question or objection valid. This shows the prospect that you see that it's important. You want to make the objection important because it's important to the prospect. That's what I was talking about earlier about looking at the bug. Making it important doesn't mean you also have to agree with it. And this is the most important part of this. If you agree with the objection, you may give it extra strength. This is not the desired effect. You want the prospect to know that you heard him and that you understand his concern. The second part of this step has to do with the intensity you use to make this objection important. The intensity is the volume and animation you use. Using the same intensity as your prospect helps you communicate better with your prospect. If your prospect is very animated about something and you sit there like a stump, your level of communication will lessen. Conversely, if you're very animated and your prospect is subdued, the same non-optimum effect occurs. Match your prospect's intensity on his objection or use slightly less intensity. I'll give you a correct example and then 2 incorrect examples. Here's the correct example. I completely understand your concern. That validated the objection without agreeing with it. Here's an incorrect one. I feel or felt the same way. This is incorrect because you would be agreeing with the objection. Another incorrect. Oh, I totally agree. I would never go door to door. Are you kidding me? That is so below me. This is incorrect because you agreed with the objection and you used too much intensity. All right, those first 3 steps out of the 5 of the questions and objection remedy I just gave you are what few people do. I'll repeat them quickly so they're fresh in your mind. Number 1, listen completely through the question objection. Number 2 is to confirm understanding. Number 3 is to make the question or objection valid to the prospect. Most networkers jump right into step number 4, which is to handle the objection. But you will do much better by doing the first 3 steps. Many people ask me, what's the best way to handle the pyramid objection? Or the best way to handle the time objection? What they're looking for is a clever response to come back with when given these objections. But the real professionals will do the first 3 steps so their response is effective. See, when you do the first 3 steps, you've made sure the prospect knows you're listening. Don't forget, these things are self-imposed objections. Clever responses rarely work. It only works to really get into the person and examine and see their objection and have compassion for their objection. That's what works. You've also made sure you're answering the correct objection. Man, it's bad when you give your response and your prospect says, you didn't answer my question. So make sure you always do the first 3 steps. I've added something within step 4 that takes handling objections to a whole new level, and unless you do the first 3 steps effectively, you won't be able to use this added tool to its greatest degree. All right, number 4 of the questions and objection remedy is to actually handle or facilitate handling questions and or objections. The addition I've added is the facilitating handling. The word facilitate means to assist. Remember, the whole purpose of handling questions and objections is to get the prospect past the concerns that stop him or her from getting what they've stated they need or want. Listen real closely to this statement because it's the magic behind handling objections. The most effective way to handle an objection is to get the prospect to create a solution to their objection. Why? Because it's their self-imposed bug in the first place. They put their attention on the bug. Therefore, the only person who can remove it is them. You coming back with a snappy response is rarely going to remedy the objection. The most effective way to remedy the objection is to have them solve it. Here's an example of the correct way to do this. I'm going to continue with the example of the lady who has the objection of going door to door. Here is an example of a good way to handle this. In the past, there have been people who use the door-to-door method to find prospects, but there are many ways to locate prospects. What methods of prospecting do you feel comfortable with? Prospect says, well, I wouldn't mind mailing out postcards. I also like newspaper advertisements. My response to her, good. Both of those can be very effective ways to find prospects. See, the networker is not handling the objection. Here she is facilitating the prospect in handling her own objection. The key is to ask questions that lead the prospect to the solution. Remember this, if you say it, it can be challenged. If the prospect says it, it must be true. The 5th and final step of the questions and objection remedy is to complete the handling and return to the previous step of the inviting formula. This 5th and final step completes the conversation about the question or objection and shifts the prospect's attention back to the step in the inviting formula prior to the question or objection. Notice I said to return them to the step of the inviting formula they were on prior to the question or objection. The reason I note this is because objections or questions can come up anywhere. They can come up in the greeting. They can come up in the close to action step. They can come up anywhere. So let's pick back up on the example we've been using about the person not wanting to work door to door. Let's say that we were in the qualify step when her objection came up. So you'll hear me move her back to qualify. Okay, Karen, now that you can see several alternatives to door-to-door sales, plus I know a tad bit more about you, you sound like you've had experience in marketing. What have you done in marketing? So you see, I concluded the handling of the objection and moved her back to the step we were on prior to the objection, which in this case was the qualify step. Now let's move into how I handle the 4 most common objections you'll get during the invite call. The first common question objection I want to teach you is the question, what is it? This is the most common of all questions and is actually a good sign. It means the prospect is involved, even if in a doubtful, hesitant way. Often this question objection is given without any real desire to know what it is, but is merely a way to participate in the conversation. The example I'm going to give you would be coming after I've invited them. You normally won't get what is it during the greet or qualify steps because you've really not alluded to a business. I rarely get this question with purchase leads, but will get it frequently when I use the direct approach that I spoke about in the qualifying warm market section. Alright, so I invited John to look at a video I'm going to send him, and then he asked me, what is it? Or, what's it about? John, based on you telling me that you want to get a sailboat and cruise the Caribbean islands, it just reminded me of something I've seen that I think will help you accomplish that. You'll understand once you've seen it. Let me get this out to you. What's your address? And another line would be, I genuinely appreciate your interest in knowing what it is, and if I thought I could summarize it in a few sentences, I would. That clarified the objection and made it valid. However, time-wise, it would be more productive to both of us for you to watch the online movie, then you and I can have a more intelligent conversation about it. Read me the web address I gave you. I want to make sure I gave it to you correctly. That's the way that I handle the what is it objection. The next common objection I want to talk to you about is I'm too busy. The too busy or no time objection is very common. It's the easiest objection for the prospect to throw at you as their reason for not attaining what they need, want, or don't want. Obviously, if you call someone while they're in the middle of bathing their infant, they're too busy to talk with you. So there are certainly times when too busy or no time is legitimate. By contrast, some people just live in the frame of mind that they don't have time, as if someone else is controlling their time. They need your help. The other circumstance in which people use this too busy objection is in a nice way, in their view, of saying no to you. So they are masking an unexpressed objection using time as their mask. The first thing you will need to do with the too busy or no time objection is identify which too busy objection you're dealing with. The way you solve a legitimate time issue, such as they're bathing their infant, is to reschedule and call later. Real simple. The way you solve a frame of mind issue is to ask more questions. I'll give you my script in just a second. And the way you solve an unexpressed objection, you also need to ask more questions. Here's an example of legitimate time too busy. Let's say that you invite your prospect to look at the online movie. Your prospect says he will, but he's heading out of town in the morning and won't have time to look at it before he leaves. In this situation, you simply schedule when he will be back and tell him you'll follow up then. So I say something like this. Oh, no problem. Where are you traveling to? Is it business or pleasure? How long are you going to be gone? All right. So why don't I wait until you get back to send this over to you? You get back on Thursday the 10th? I'll just call you on the 11th. Does that work? Good. Well, have a great trip. So that's the way that I handle that one. Frame of mind too busy. An example of this one would be, let's say my prospect says she wants to do something where she doesn't have to be away from home when her kids return from school. I invite her to look at a DVD and she says she's too busy. I'd say something like, you're too busy? Okay. Just so I don't misunderstand you, when you say you're too busy, what is it that you're too busy for? And to that she replies, I'm too busy to do anything else. My response would be, I understand that one. You feel you want to change something so that you can be at home when your kids come home, but you're so busy with everything in life that you can't do anything else. Is that the way you feel? And she says, exactly. See, I just described her bug exactly, right? That's all that I really did right there. Okay, I'll continue on with what I would say. Well, let's see if we can figure this out, because the risk of not solving this is that it continues another 10 years and your kids will be all grown up. So let's solve it. Everyone has 24 hours, right? Yes. Okay, and that 24 hours can be divided into 3 even columns of 8 hours each. So picture a piece of paper with 3 columns, each having 8 hours. In the column on the left, let's say that that's the sleep column, and we really don't want to mess with that one. You need your sleep. The second or middle column is the work column, and for right now, we probably don't want to mess with that one either. I'm assuming you couldn't just up and quit your job, right? She says correct. Okay, so the right-hand side of this paper would contain the last column of 8 hours, and let's label that column getting what you want. Can you visualize this? She says I can. So if what you really want is to not have to go to work so that you can be at home to get your kids off to school in the morning without being rushed and to welcome them home when they get off the bus in the afternoon, then the only place we can pull time from to achieve this goal is the right-hand column. We have 8 hours in that column. Now, and this is the key part, pretend that no one controls that 8 hours but you and your superwoman, and you decide what you do in that 8 hours, and you do it. Can you pretend that with me? Laughing, she says, okay. All right, right now, decide the time that you will take tomorrow to view this movie that can get you what it is that you truly want. Okay, so let's move on to the next too busy objection, which is the too busy masking an unexpressed objection. Let's say that I'm on an invite call and the objection came up about network marketing. I work through the objection and then I invite him to look at the online presentation. And he says, you know what, I'm really too busy. Now, is this really a too busy objection? No, because earlier he's given me a need, want, or don't want. Otherwise, I wouldn't have invited him. So he has a need, want, and he's suddenly staring at this big bug and he calls the big bug too busy? No, he's masking the real objection. You must dig in and surface this unexpressed objection. If I've already spent the time on the MLM objection, then I would probably just try to get him to tell me what his unexpressed objection is. I'd probably say something like, Bob, just so I don't misunderstand you, when you say you're too busy, what is it that you're too busy for? Just too busy to do anything else. Bob, if I'm wrong about this, please tell me, but is there still something that you dislike about network marketing? See, the reason that I would go straight to that is because he's told me a need, want he has. Then he focused on the bug on the windshield about network marketing. I handled that objection, or I thought I handled that objection, but suddenly the time objection appears. So my guess would be that we've not fully handled the MLM objection. Let's do a live call with a sharp lady I met in the gym. She is in project management, and while we were talking, I did a greeting, and I had asked her about her work, and she had expressed dissatisfaction. I think my comment was, "Are you doing what you've always dreamed of doing?" She kind of laughed and replied, "Hardly." We exchanged business cards, and I'm calling her back. Several times in the gym, she had mentioned time, and then she brings it up on this call a couple of times, so I just decided to have a discussion about time with her. You can listen in.
Hello?
Hello, is this Tisha?
Yes, it is.
Hi, my name is Tim Sales. You and I exchanged business cards the other day after talking in the gym.
Yeah.
You remember me?
I do. How are you?
I am good.
Good.
Have I caught you at a bad time?
It's never a good time, but that's all right. Go ahead.
All right. Well, actually, thanks for that, by the way. I'd actually like to pick up on our conversation that we were having at the gym. I was thinking about it afterwards, and I'm just curious if you would have a reason to look at something outside of project management.
With regards to what?
With regards to your goal.
You're talking about me wanting to pursue things that... okay, well, that conversation stemmed from I have some business pursuits that I'd like to tackle outside of work, but with everything going on, I just haven't had the time to focus on it at all. So I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing what it is that you'd like to actually ultimately achieve? If you were to look back and say, you know, when you're 100 years old and say, this is what I accomplished.
Not at all. The ultimate goal for me is I want to own my own business. It's a health spa, and I'd like to, basically ultimately change careers, but obviously there's a lot entailed with bringing a business like that up. So unfortunately, I just don't seem to have the time to get there.
Is time the only barrier that you've got, you feel?
It seems to be. There are others that, play secondary, capital costs and so forth, those types of things. But I think those all come with being able to sit down and solidify, better plans. But yeah, ultimately the time is the root cause for me getting anywhere.
Got it. What would owning this club, this spa that you have in mind, what would that fulfill for you?
A job that has more purpose. I like my job and I'm good at what I do. Unfortunately, it just doesn't bring me a whole lot of personal satisfaction. So, and it aligns more along the lines of what I'm about in life anyway. So I think that it's a lower stress job. It's something that I would enjoy doing, and I have more control over its growth and where I take it than I do in my current position now.
Understood. Good. And so your idea on this spa, it would be more value to other people.
Yeah, you don't mind if I write that up in my business plan, do you? That's exactly what I want.
Well, that's excellent. That is, it's a worthwhile ambition. I can see why you would be wanting to get that.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd like to do, if you're agreeable to it, is that I'd like to send you an online movie and have you take a look at it. It's just about 20 minutes. And what it does is it just explains a concept. There's no hype or anything like that involved in it. It just explains a concept. And then I'd like to just explore with you, because I think this could help you achieve what you're after here in terms of adding value to people's lives. I think it would give you time, and I also think that it would give you the additional resources in terms of money that you need to achieve that. Can we do that?
I'd be interested in looking at it. I'm glad you kind of caveated the length of the video, because if it had been extremely long, I genuinely just maxed out on having time to be able to focus on anything. So, but yeah, 20 minutes, absolutely, I can spare that. So, sure, I'll take a look at it.
Do you mind if I just bring up this time issue just a little bit? Do you mind if I just say a couple of things on it and have you view it from perhaps another perspective?
Please do.
Okay. If you just kind of took a look, and I don't want to in any way invalidate anything that you've done or said or anything like that. It's just sometimes you can look at something from a different view and go, I'd never looked at it that way. And so that's all I want to do here, is just to add that for you, okay?
Sure.
All right. If you were to take a piece of paper and divide it into 3 equal parts, all right? And on the left side, we'll call that sleep, all right? So let's just say that we're all good and we sleep 8 hours.
Okay.
All right?
Do I need to be drawing this out now?
No.
Okay.
Just a visual is all I want you to have on it.
Okay.
And I'm drawing it over here so that I can explain it correctly. But
okay.
So that left 1/3 is 8 hours of sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
The middle third is 8 hours of work.
Mm-hmm.
And the third that's on the right-hand side is the 8 hours of stuff.
Okay.
All right. So I can assume, and if I'm wrong, correct me, that you don't really want to sacrifice the sleep.
Not wanting to, true, but unfortunately that's what seems to get sacrificed.
Oh, of course.
Because I don't work a regular 8-hour shift day. I work 9 hours a day, and I have every other Friday off, so it's not a typical schedule.
Okay. And whatever the schedule is, it really is, it's more the visual of what we're going to try to accomplish here.
Okay.
And so we don't want to sacrifice the sleep, right?
Right.
And I assume that you can't just up and quit your job right now.
No.
Right? So we can't mess with the second third of this piece of paper.
Right.
So the only thing that we have is this right-hand side, which is 8 hours. So 3 times 8 is 24. At least in Tennessee, where I went to school, it was.
Last time I checked, it was, yeah.
Okay. So the only thing that you can work with is on the right-hand side of this column. Now, if you were to look back over, say, the last month, looked at that right-hand column called stuff, would you say that you have devoted your drive towards accomplishing the things that Tisha really wants out of life?
A portion of that, yeah, I would.
A portion of it. What portion?
Well, the portion that requires me to go to school and establish the credentials I need to get there. It's probably every bit of, well, if I had to break it down on a daily basis for the 8 hours, it would be 2 to 3 hours a day are spent, doing homework, research, class, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. All right, so we have about 6 hours a day, 6 hours remaining out of that. So what happens is that as we look backwards on life, we kind of look and go, you know what? I used all 24 hours every single day my whole life. But did I really accomplish the things I truly wanted in life, or did I just get so busy with other things that I sacrificed what I really wanted out of life? And so that's what I'd like you to just take a look at, so that as you evaluate what I'm going to send you, and you can say, okay, well, obviously the only way one accomplishes what they really truly want out of life is that they use that 8 hours on the right-hand side to gain them more of the 8 hours in the middle column.
Fair assessment. So I could have been all along achieving what I think I'm ultimately getting at. I'm just probably getting impatient with the fact that it's taking so long because I'm only allotted so many hours a day.
Right.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I appreciate the other perspective, because sometimes the voice of reasoning in your own head doesn't always make sense.
Yeah. So if you pretend for just a little bit that you're Superwoman and you totally control your whole life, and that you can decide your schedule, and you will decide it, and and that you'll accomplish this thing that you want, and so you have to use that 8 hours on the right side to gain more time in the middle column. It's the only way that it can possibly logically work.
Right.
All right. Do you have something to write with?
Yeah, I do.
It is www.
I'm sorry, hold on. I Post-it note's not cooperating. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
www. .explorefreedom.com.
Okay.
/Trump, TRUMP, as in Donald.
So he's sponsoring this, huh?
No.
Okay.
And read that back to me, make sure you got it.
www.explorefreedom.com /Trump.
All right. And when you get to there, you'll see my ugly mug on the right-hand side. I actually am dressed a little nicer than I was at the gym.
Probably not nearly as sweaty either, but okay.
That's right. All right, and on the left-hand side, there's going to be 2 movie links. One is How the Wealthy Got That Way, which is really cool. It's about 10 minutes, and you can just take a look at that one. But the one that I want to talk to you about is the one called Brilliant Compensation. It's the link right underneath How the Wealthy Got That Way.
Okay.
When do you think you'll get a chance to take a look at that?
Let's see. Between weekly activities for the troops this weekend, probably Monday. I can probably take a look at it during my lunch break.
All right. When would be a good time for us to talk after Monday? Are you off on Monday? No, you're off on Fridays, you said.
Right, every other Friday. No, I'm not. But you could probably reach me on my lunch hour on Tuesday.
Okay, and what time would that be?
11:15.
11:15 on Tuesday. And what number should I call?
Area code 6.
All right. Well, very good, Tisha. I enjoyed talking to you, and you're going to take a look at that, and I will call you at exactly 11:15 on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, did you notice that time seemed to always be an issue? I think this call does a great job of giving you a view that some people live in the frame of mind that time is running out, that there's not enough time, or someone controls their time. I hope this call was valuable to you. All right, let's move to the next common objection, which is this sales? The is this sales objection comes up because the prospect is resistant to being rejected, or they felt pressured by a salesperson at some point and feels that's what salespeople do. So first off, you need to find out what picture of sales they have in their mind. The second thing you need to establish and get their agreement on is what sales really is. When I discussed the questions and objection remedy, I used is this sales as the example. In that particular objection, the person had the perception of door-to-door sales. Now, that's not a common objection. Normally, when this objection comes up, it has to do with your prospect not feeling confident in their ability to communicate. So in handling this objection, you need to discuss communication in all the different ways they communicate and draw the connection that they are always selling by communicating. Also, explain to them that you will really help them by training. People who have this objection really want training. Very often, people who have the sales objection have made the excuse that people are either born with the ability to sell or they weren't. Here are a couple of questions that you can ask to dig into this objection and get your prospect talking. When you picture sales, what do you see? Another one is, what's been your experience around selling? Another one is, all right, I understand that you don't like sales, so I can better understand how you view this. In your view, what's the difference between sales and communication? That's probably the best one to ask. It's the most effective one, and it causes your prospect to try to draw a contrast between the two. All right, before we go to the next section, I want to draw your attention to something. Remember when I said earlier that whenever you can get your prospect to tell you their objection, let them sing? Now you can see why I said that. On the I'm too busy objection, my example was that it was a mask for the MLM objection. Then on this one, is this sales, is also a mask for I don't feel confident in my ability to communicate. But your prospect won't say that. Remember when I said that you have to be a smart hardware salesperson and notice that the prospect doesn't need a drill bit, the prospect needs a hole? This is what I was referring to. Most of the time your prospect will not tell you that she feels uncomfortable with communication, but that's what she needs help with. Sometimes you have to look through the unexpressed objection and see what your prospect needs and solve it. And that's what makes you a professional. And the last common objection I'm going to cover is the MLM objection. The way this question or objection will come to you will be your prospect asking, is this MLM? Or is this network marketing? Or is this one of those pyramids? Or is this like Amway, Mary Kay, Shackley, or some other company? This question objection comes up from the prospect being previously exposed to network marketing or MLM. By the way, there isn't any difference between MLM and network marketing. MLM is an abbreviation for multi-level marketing, which means paid on more than one level. When the media got bad on the name multi-level marketing, a group started calling it network marketing, but it's the same. To properly handle this objection, if it is an objection, you're going to do what you always do on a question or objection, and that is find out what their experience has been. Many times they've had no experience. All their information is hearsay. If they have had a bad experience with MLM, the only way to get beyond this objection is to guide them to see that their bad or lack of success experience was because of insufficient training. Even if the company they were involved with went out of business, the reason is still lack of training. In that case, it would have been poor training on how to evaluate a company. If the prospect tells you that the products they were promoting weren't any good, obviously use that information. That's what they're blaming their failure on, and it should be validated. So you could say something like, well, that's very keen of you to recognize that the product needs to really help people. So to summarize how to handle the MLM objection, you first must find out what their experience has been, and then guide them to realizing that their lack of success or bad experience was due to poor training. Now, if they've never been involved with network marketing and all their information is hearsay, follow the same procedures. You take each issue they bring up and show them how training solves it. Obviously, if they bring up that it's illegal, you would handle that having them watch Brilliant Compensation. I've never gotten a pyramid objection after the prospect has watched the Brilliant Compensation video. So I'll walk you through this procedure. Somebody asks, is this MLM? My answer is, yes, it is MLM. How do you know of MLM? If they were to say, is this network marketing, then I would use that same word. Or, could you clarify what you mean by MLM? Or, could you clarify what you mean by Amway? Or whatever it is that they said. Then the next important question is, do you have personal experience with an MLM company, or are you referring to someone else's experience? Many times you don't have to ask this because they would have answered it within their response to your first question, but make sure you know. I can't tell you how many times I went diving into handling this objection before I found out that they had never been involved in it. Okay, once you know that, you want to let them fully tell you their experience. Validate everything they say, never argue or disagree with them. Never talk bad about another company or upline. Once you have all the information, then proceed with this question. Does network marketing work? Not for you, not for anyone you know, just does it as an industry work? And then get their response. Then ask, what do you think it takes for it to work for an individual? and from there you must guide them to training. This is where you facilitating handling their objection really comes into play. Remember, if you say it, it can be challenged. If they say it, it must be true. Alright, once they agree that it's training, explain to them the advantage that they will have with your unique training. I do recommend you discuss what you've learned with Professional Inviter, because this is very different training than most have ever received in network marketing, and this is truly what they need. Now, you must get them to see how this time is different than the last time or times they were involved in MLM. If they do not see how it's different, they won't join you. After you've gotten them to agree that it is training and yours is different, then you close to action with something like this. Mark, I want to sit down with you and show you how it's different. I want to show you the training tools that are now available to you. Are you open to sitting down? An alternative would be, Mark, everything you brought up here I totally understand, and I can see how it left a bad taste in your mouth. The video that I'd like to send you will really help with this. It's done by a marketing professor who teaches network marketing at a university and someone very successful at it. The video is not from our company, it's just about the industry. It really explains everything very clearly without any hype. Let me send this to you. You watch it and then we'll talk about it. Sometimes their experience was bad because the company went under, or the company wouldn't allow them to return the products they ordered, or something similar. After making everything they say valid, respond with, I can understand how that was a bad experience for you, and I'm sorry you had that experience. But moving forward, it's kind of like working as an employee for a bad company. Doesn't mean you never work again just because you had a bad experience. Does that make sense to you? Or like eating a bad meal doesn't mean you stop eating just because of a bad meal, right?
Professional Inviter recordings and transcripts are copyright 2004 by Up Statistics Corporation. Any unauthorized translation, duplication, importation, or distribution is a violation of applicable laws and will be prosecuted to the full